It's the original settlement of Ballarat when the gold rush first came and people were frantically digging for gold. So it's a landscape that reflects that history. Prior to that, it was considered to be the food bowl of the traditional owners. So it's nestled into the foothills of part of the Great Dividing Range with quite a few tributaries of the Yarrawee River coming in to meet at a point which is now close to where the central business district of Ballarat is.
Ballarat's got this really distinctive feature about it that is quite unique in the world, if you like. So it's got such a long and vibrant history, but I think everyone in Ballarat is really proud of it.
So it feels rich with history and it feels rich with nature.
With the growth that's coming, the great challenge is to retain that distinctiveness.
There's many cogs that are always turning when in city management, and quite often there are things that are happening in isolation that should be better integrated and people should be collaborating together.
It's interesting when you talk to lots of people from around the world that we've all had the same experience, that something was making us frustrated in our jobs. And it's usually that, people aren't thinking about your area. And everyone has this. You're not thinking about what I've got to consider, and so-and-so's not thinking about that. And that things just don't seem to be working. You're always on the back foot. You're always having to respond to things on a case-by-case basis. And you never have that space to think, if we wanted to do things better in this city, if we wanted to help the city change in a better way, that we need that space to be able to actually think about that firstly. And I guess that you're always having to chip away. So in when was it? In 2013, our team started talking about needing a bigger long-term strategy for Ballarat. And it was something that we all sort of arrived at the same time, and it was really lucky because I'd started working with the HUL approach as well. So the historic urban landscape approach is really a different way of thinking about cities and managing change. And it's really logical at the end of the day. It's just about looking at the distinctiveness of a place and using that as a launch pad or a departure point for how change can occur.
So we've been doing that research to understand what is there and also what are the pressures. So we've been doing some quite detailed analysis around the changes that are expected for population, the planning for transport, looking at what sort of needs people have got in terms of community facilities and services, and of course looking at all of that through that lens of what people love about the place.
Put your name down here if you're new to us, and you are being filmed tonight, so you don't want to be filmed quickly.
On behalf of the Friends of Canadian Corridor, welcome to our meeting this evening. This would normally be one of our bi-monthly meetings. This evening we're working with the City of Ballarat, and they'll be taking over the meeting and running, looking at the strategic plan for Ballarat East in a moment.
The HUL approach is very much around city management. A lot of the time, because of its name, Historic Urban Landscape, it gets pigeonholed into just being about heritage, but it's really about bringing people into a process, so local citizens, their culture, their values.
So firstly, we're just going to map all the issues. Try not to come up with your ideas at this point in time.
It's about getting lots of different people working together better. So rather than being in very isolated spaces where we work, we come together and we really problem solve around change, and starting to understand cities as dynamic places.
Oh, for me it's exciting because I think the HUL gives a sort of foundation where we can start to challenge ourselves about what's working and what isn't.
I'm excited because it's really interesting to explore different ways to kind of elucidate the community's values.
And to be able to learn the lessons from new things that we try, it sort of gives us the space to be experimental and say, this isn't working, how could we do it differently, how could we collaborate better, how could we be more integrated into things that are already happening.
We keep hearing this word values, but it really is, it's coming at it with a bit more of an open mind, and really assessing the project firstly by setting the boundaries on the project by what the community values and how they understand place, rather than us coming at a technocratic end.
I think the historic urban landscape is very much about if you understand what it is that makes this place special, then you can embrace new opportunity, you can embrace contemporary design, you can embrace sort of new investment and new activities and all that kind of thing, while still maintaining what it is that makes the place special.
I think the thing I love about Ballarat is the diversity.
Whether it's the built environment or in the kind of demographic of people who live here. And it's really always really vibrant. There's always something going on, and people are always really excited to come to see and do things in Ballarat.
Ballarat strategy started with a community visioning exercise. We all decided that we definitely wanted local voices to be the way that the strategy would be set up. The strategy is about growth into the future. So it's looking at how Ballarat can change between, I think it was 2015 and 2040, so a large period of time. And we were doing some exploratory work because there were no cities that were doing HUL. So we'd become a pilot city in 2013, but we didn't really have anyone we could look at. So there's a lot of talking, a lot of exploring, a lot of looking at the problems. What was really interesting was we started a program called Ballarat Imagine, and it's not a method that people use everywhere. It was something that we had to discuss and talk through.
So the Ballarat Imagine consultation program, or the work associated with that, was done to inform the Ballarat strategy. It's a thread throughout the whole strategy, really, that all of the things in here that imagine Ballarat as a greener, and as it says here, a greener, more vibrant and connected Ballarat. That's derived from the Ballarat Imagine conversation that we had with the community. And what this strategy does is then work out what are the next steps. How do we actually, what people have told us, how do we implement it, and how do we continue to develop a city that responds to and reflects the things that people told us they love through Ballarat Imagine. From a planning perspective, one of the elements is to start to bring that down to a local level, and to undertake local area planning, whether that be our townships or specific renewal areas or some of the collections of suburbs, and to say, okay, we've heard from you in Ballarat Imagine. We know that to actually deliver outcomes, the outcomes that you imagine for the city, that we need to take our planning to the next level and another level of detail, and that's the process that we're in now.
The HUL was really important in that, because what it was saying was that we need to really understand what's critically important about places and what people value, so that we make sure that that's a critical part of the future of the city.
I think it's because deep down we appreciate that everything is connected and that we get the complexity of it. And when we do separate things out and we treat them in isolation, that we're not necessarily getting solutions that are good for everyone.
So you can't look at the future of a city or a place without having everyone involved and having everyone's voices, because everyone carries knowledge and important information